Join ForumIAS Academy, trusted by hundreds of toppers, including IAS Rank 1 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐥.
Hello friends, this is Vijay. Very good evening. In our today's news discussion, we are going to discuss these 5 topics in the slide. The first topic is related to cluster bomb munition. Okay, so this is the first topic. It came in the editorial section. Secondly, we are having an article related to small modulator reactor. So can SMR help India to achieve net zero? So this is the second article we are having. Then thirdly, it is an article related to the open market selling scheme. Okay, so this is the third article. Then fourthly, we are having an article related to Amazon rainforest. So Amazon nations to jointly fight deforestation. So this is the fourth article. Then lastly, the number of elephants in the recent elephant survey, it had gone up in Karnataka. So this is the last article we are having for discussion, right? Now without any further delay, let us dive into the discussion part. So stop the fence sitting in cluster bomb use. This is the article title, and author is Prabhash Ranjan. So he is a faculty in South Asian University. With respect to this article, the author have been discussing about the function of cluster munitions and the convention related to cluster bomb munition. Then he is quoting about some article from the Geneva Convention. So these are all the stuffs he have been covering throughout the article. Actually, the context is, we all well known, last February 24th, Russia, it kickstarted its special military operations on Ukraine, right? Because Ukraine had shown interest in joining the NATO. So that's what Russia, it elevated its operations in the theater of Ukraine. And we have been witnessing multiple missile firings between Russia and Ukraine. In these towns, Russia, they actually detonated variants of cluster bomb munitions, right? So it actually angered the Ukraine. So Ukraine, it sought help from United States. Obviously, Western countries and United States, they are the arms suppliers for Ukraine. Now, the US, they came forward to supply the stockpiles of cluster bomb munitions to Ukraine. So clearly, we have been witnessing one fact here. The people who are in the theater, who are in the operational theaters, they are going to be the victims. Because these Russia and Ukraine, they have been violently involving in certain activities which have been escalating the threshold of the war. So in these times, they are going to utilize the potential of the cluster bomb munition. But obviously, who is going to get victimized? The common civilian people, right? So this is what the article have been discussing. And before getting into the article, we need to know what is meant by cluster bomb munition. Okay, so a cluster munition is a form of air-dropped or ground-launched explosive weapon that releases or ejects smaller submunitions commonly known as bomblets over a wide area. We know very well about the principle of supersonic missile and ballistic missile, right? In both these missiles, we will be having the conventional warhead or nuclear warhead. But the number of warheads in these missiles will be very lower compared to the cluster bomb munitions. In cluster bomb munitions, almost 200 bomblets will be there in the single fuse. So in a single strike, multiple bomblets will be detonated in the battlefield and the neutralizing potential will be very high. So almost 1 square kilometer of the region will be neutralized for a medium range cluster bomb munition. Okay, and the launch vehicle for the cluster bomb can be both supersonic missile and ballistic missile. We can launch from surface using the artillery guns or from the space using fighter jets, right? And the second point, they are designed to kill personal and destroy vehicles, runways, power lines or other targets. So these are all the targets. It can be neutralized with the help of the cluster bomb munition. But here the thing is, the cluster bomb munition, it won't show any discrimination between the combatants and the civilian population. Because here the multiple warheads will be released from the single fuselage, right? So from the front line, most of the people, they will be stationing behind the front line, right? So those people also will be affected because of the utilization of the cluster bomb munitions, right? So in the image you can see, these are all the bomblets, okay? These are all the bomblets. So almost 200 to 300 bomblets will be there in the single fuselage, okay? So the quantum of the bomblets will be very high. The potential of the bomblets will be very low. Each bomblet, they can kill almost 2 persons. If they are detonating, means it can have the capability to kill some 2 persons. So you can imagine the impact of the cluster bomb munitions, okay? Then the third point, some cluster munitions, they can also disperse chemical or biological agents, landmines or leaflets. So generally in the warhead, we will be using the conventional TNT, trinitrotoluene or RDX, right? So with respect to the cluster bomb munitions, we can also infuse the chemical ingredients. It may be H2SO4 or it may be HCl. So we can include any ingredients, any chemical ingredients in the warhead and we can detonate it. Imagine if we are detonating some 2 liters of H2SO4 with the cluster bomb munition, means how the impact will be, right? So this is what it have been stating. Moreover, with respect to the cluster bomb, there is one term which is dud rate, okay? So the dud rate will be very high with respect to the Russian cluster bomb munitions, but the dud rate will be very low with respect to the US made cluster bombs, okay? So in the detonation, almost 80% of the bomblets will be exploded, but some 15 to 20% it won't get exploded or it won't get detonated, and it will be there in the battlefield for a long time. So in the course of time, it may act as a precarious landmines. It may act as a landmines. So if some individuals, if they are stepping over the bomblets, means undetonated bomblet, means it may explode. So this is the dud, okay? And these are all the challenges we are having with respect to the cluster bombs. So cluster munitions, they can indiscriminately harm civilians and civilian objects, violating the international humanitarian law, okay? So with respect to the Geneva Convention, in Geneva Convention, under the Article 51.4, there is one customary international law. So it prohibits indiscriminatory use of force. We need to discriminate who are combatants, who are civilians. Whenever any country, it may be India or Pakistan, if they are going to involve in any military operation, means they need to discriminate between the combatants and the military forces. So they can target any military establishments, military bases, naval bases, but they are not supposed to harm the civilian population, right? So this is the international humanitarian law or international customary law, which is followed under the Geneva Convention 51.4. Even the country may be a part of Geneva Convention or not, this is the universal law. So each and every country, they need to abide by the principle what we are having under the Article 51 and sub-article 4, okay? Then another one article is there under the same Geneva Convention, which is Article 51 and sub-article 5. So it clearly states that there should be proportionality in the attack. So if the enemy is using some variant of missile, means we should retaliate with the same form of missile, okay? We are not supposed to use any excess power while firing the enemies. So this is what the proportionality. And moreover, any country, if they are involving in any military operation, means they need to discriminate between who are civilians, who are military combatants, and we are supposed to abide by the proportionality law. So the proportionality law, it clearly states that what amount of power we should release from our ammunitions, okay? So this is the second most important point the author have been quoting in the article. Then with respect to the challenges, as I already told you, the second challenge is dud rate. So the cluster bomb munitions, they have a high failure rate, leaving behind the unexploded ordnance that poses ongoing danger. So this is the dud rate. So while celebrating the Diwali, you might have used certain crackers, right? Some crackers, they won't detonate, but in the course of time, in the future, it may get detonated, right? So this is how the bomblets in the cluster bomb munitions will also work. They won't detonate during the impact, but later they may detonate, okay? So that is the dud rate. And with respect to the dud rate, the Russian made cluster bomb munitions, they are having high rate with respect to dud, and the cluster bomb munitions which are manufactured in the US, they are having low dud rate, okay? Additionally, they contaminate vast areas of extended periods, rendering them unfit for human use and burdening healthcare and economies in affected nations. So we all will know how the cluster bomb munitions, it will get detonated, right? So initially there will be a air burst, and after the air burst, the bomblets in the fuselage will spread over the considerable land area and it will get detonated. So this is how the neutralization will be happen. So with respect to the usage of the cluster bomb munitions, it will render the land unfit for further human use because lot of deaths will be there. So it render the land for unfit for future human uses. Okay. Then there is one convention. Is there with respect to the cluster munitions, in which the Article 1 of the Convention on Cluster Munitions, it clearly states that it outlaws the use, production, transfer, and stockpiling of these weapons. Apart from these initiatives, each and every country who are being a partner of Cluster Munition Convention, they need to undertake victim assistance program. So they need to provide healthcare, education to the victims of the cluster bomb munition detonations. Okay, so people who are affected by the cluster bombs, they need to get some education and some health care programs under the government. So this is what the Article 1 have been mentioning. Then with respect to this convention, it was adopted in Dublin by 107 states on 30th May 2008 and it was signed in Oslo on 3rd December 2008. So the convention, it became a binding international law when it entered into force on 1st August 2010. So Convention on Cluster Munitions, it is a legally binding agreement. If the country is being a part of the convention means, then they are supposed to undertake the measures of what the convention have been insisting. So till date, total of 123 states have joined the convention and 111 state parties and 12 signatories. Okay, so these 12 signatories, they hadn't been ratified the convention, but still they are being a part of the convention. And the major military powers like India, United States, Russia, Ukraine, then Pakistan and Israel, they are not being a part of convention on cluster munitions. So with respect to this issue, let me explain few other facts. As we have seen before, we know very well about the Article 51.5 and Article 51.4. Okay. So 51.4, it refers to the indiscriminate use of force. So each and every military wing, they are supposed to discriminate between the combatants and the civilians. Then 51.5, it clearly states that each and every force should abide by the proportionality. So if they are retaliating with some other weapon means, then we are supposed to use the same variant of weapon. So this is the proportionality, right? Even India's no first use policy is there, right? With respect to India. So it is based on the proportionality. Under the no first use, India, it won't attack any country with a nuclear power until and unless if the opponent, if they are using the nuclear power against India means, then India will be retaliating with the same power. So this is the proportionality. So this is what the international convention, the Geneva Convention have been insisting to each and every country. You may be a partner to Convention on Cluster Munitions, or you may not be a partner to Geneva Conventions, but you are supposed to abide by the discriminate policy and the proportionality policy, what we are having under the Geneva Conventions, right? So this is what the article have been stating. And with respect to this article, the US, it won't be violating any law because it is not a part of any convention, convention on cluster munitions or Geneva Conventions. But the country who are using the cluster bomb munitions, they will be violating the law, even they are not a part of convention on the cluster munitions, because here with respect to this issue, they will be violating the proportionality what we are having under the Geneva Convention 51.4 and 51.5. Okay, so here the Ukraine and Russia, they will be clearly violating the principles of law, and obviously who will be the victim? Civilians will be the victim. So the author have been insisting that each and every country in the universe, they need to strive hard to eliminate the cluster bomb munitions from the earth. So this is what the author have been concluding, right? Now let us wind up this article here. Let us dive into the next article. This is the second article, guys. Can SMRs help India achieve net zero? So this is the article title. With respect to the nuclear power plants, we are having three variants. So one is large conventional reactor, what we are having in Kudankulam and Kakrapara, etc. and all. Then we are having small modulator reactor. So small modulator reactor, they will be in the size of 200 megawatt thermal power plant. Okay, so the space utilization will be almost equal to the 200 megawatt thermal power plant. And these reactors, they are having potential to produce almost 300 megawatt of energy. Then we are having micro reactors. These reactors, they are having the potential to produce almost some 10 megawatts. Okay, so in this article, they have been discussing the challenges what we are having with respect to the decarbonization and what are the issues we are having with respect to the nuclear power. Then what are the advantages of using the small modulator reactor. Then they have been discussing some other factors which are not relevant from the point of exam. Okay. With respect to this article, we need to know what are the challenges with respect to decarbonization, then what are the issues with respect to the nuclear power, then what are the advantages of SMRs. So this is what we needed, right? And with respect to this article, the author have been stating that in today's context, the global countries, they have been extracting almost 10% of the energy from the nuclear power plants. With respect to the nuclear power plants, the European landscape, they have been extracting massive amount of power from the conventional nuclear reactors. Example, we are having Germany, France, Italy, UK. Okay. And with respect to the challenges of decarbonization, he has been stating that the renewables, it will not be suffice to provide affordable energy to everyone. We all well know the components what we are using in the green energy is very costly, right? The battery, the solar panels, the wind turbines, we all well know how much the cost factor is, right? So that's what he have been discussing. The renewables will not be suffice to produce affordable energy to everyone. Almost we are having 130 plus crore citizens in India, right? So we couldn't able to provide affordable energy with the expansion of the renewables what we are having. So this is what the author have been stating. Then he is stating that there is a need for reliable firm energy generating capacity to ensure the grid reliability and reduce the cost factor. So in today's context, we are having thermal power plants as the reliable energy source to ensure the grid reliability. So if we are having poor reliability in the grid means the electrical components and electronic components what we are using will be affected. Okay, so that's what in today's context we are using thermal energy as a reliable source to ensure the grid reliability. And the thermal power is almost cost affordable compared to the rest of the renewables. Okay, so with respect to the nuclear reactor, the author has been stating that the small modulator reactor, it will replace the thermal sources. So this is what the article have been insisting to us. Then the author has been stating that the demand for the renewables, it will shoot up the demand for critical minerals. What are the critical minerals we are having? One is lithium, then nickel, then garnet, right? So these critical minerals demand will be shoot up and it may go up to 3.5 times by 2030. So this is what the article have been discussing. Moreover, the critical minerals, it has been present in only in few countries like China, then Latin American countries, then in Australia, then in Korea. So these are all the countries they are holding massive amount of critical minerals. So if we are engaging in rampant mining means it will take a toll in environmental factors and in socio-cultural factors. So this is what the article have been discussing, and it states that the developing new mines in these regions, it will poses huge geopolitical risk because these regions will be affected by the mining process. So there will be repercussions with respect to the mining. Okay. Then what are the issues we are having with respect to the nuclear power? See, conventional nuclear power plants, they are having huge time and cost overrun. Okay. So if we are constructing a nuclear power plant means almost we are spending some 12 rupee for every unit of power what we are producing in the conventional nuclear power plants. And moreover, the construction time also very high. It have been shooting up the construction cost of the plant itself. Okay. So these are all the issues we are having with respect to the nuclear power. Then the second and foremost concern is the amount of waste generation. We all well known we will be using the enriched uranium or plutonium in the reactors, right? It will generate a massive amount of waste. So people have been showing huge reluctance in establishing the nuclear power plant in the concerned landscape. It have been attracting the wrath from the civilians. So this is what the article have been discussing. The amount of waste generation, it acting as a reluctant factor from the people. So the adoption of the nuclear power plant is under question, right? So in this context, we are having the small modulator reactor. So the article have been discussing what are the advantages we are having with respect to the small modulator reactor. The first and foremost advantage is small core damage efficiency than conventional nuclear power plant. What is meant by small core damage efficiency? In certain cases, there will be accident, right? So these accidents, it will make the nuclear fuel more fragile. Example, we can take Fukushima nuclear power plant. In Japan, during the tsunami, the nuclear power plant station was impacted by the tsunami. So the core was leaked and it created massive environmental disaster. Okay, so in that scenario, it won't happen with respect to the small modulator reactor. So this is the small core damage efficiency. Okay, then secondly, we are having several passive safety features with respect to the small modulator reactor. So it have been reducing the potential of the radioactive leakages from the nuclear power plant. So this is the second advantage we are having. And as I already told you, the space requirement for the small modulator reactor will be very low. Even in the existing thermal nuclear power plant, we can do some arrangements and we can construct the small modulator reactor. So this is also one advantage which is not in the slide. Then thirdly, we are having the amount of spent nuclear fuel is lower than in the conventional nuclear power plant. As we all well know, the potential and the production capacity is only 300 megawatt. So obviously the fuel, how much fuel we will be using, it will be comparatively lower than the conventional nuclear power plant, right? So this is what the third point have been stating. Then guys, the small modulator reactor, they requires low enriched uranium. Generally in the conventional nuclear power plant, they may be having capacity of producing 1000 megawatts, right? So they will be requiring enriched uranium. But with respect to the small modulator reactor, the fuel, the low enriched uranium or low enriched plutonium will be more than sufficient. So almost all countries who are having uranium or plutonium mines, they will be having low enriched uranium. So the source will be ensured. So this is what the advantage 4 of the SMRs. Then lastly, we are having serial manufacturing will reduce the cost and plant design. So right now, the cost of the small modulator reactor is comparatively lower than the conventional nuclear reactors. But if we are establishing some factory-like setup in India means, then we can bring down the manufacturing cost of the small modulator reactor, and in the course of time, we can do exports of the small modulator reactor, and with that, we can fetch huge forex reserves. So this is what the article have been stating. Okay, so this is with respect to the small modulator reactor. In this article, we have seen what are the challenges we are having with respect to the decarbonization. Then we have seen what are the issues are there in the conventional nuclear power plant. Then we have discussed the advantages of the small modulator reactor. In the course of time, if it want to transition towards the clean fuel means, better they can think of the small modulator reactor. So this is what the article have been insisting. Okay, now let us wind up this article here. Let us move on to the next article. This is the third article, guys. To curb price rise, Center to release more food grain stock by open market sale. So with respect to this article, we need to know some fundamentals. So in the timeline prior to the harvest season, the government will be announcing the MSP. The CACP, it will be recommending the MSP and it will be announced by the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. Then after the harvest season, the Food Corporation of India, they will do procurement on the procurement price. So generally the procurement price, it will be above the MSP what the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs announced. Okay, so these are the few basics. After the procurement, the crops will be stored in the godowns which are controlled by the Food Corporation of India. And with respect to the open market sale, whenever there is a supply crunch in the market, the government, it will come forward through the Food Corporation of India and they will do sale of the food crops in the open market. So this is what it have been happening now. With respect to the recent open market sale, the government, they decided to sell almost 50 lakh tons of wheat and 25 lakh tons of rice through the open market sale scheme. So it will be carried out by the Food Corporation of India. And with respect to the partners who are going to involve in the open market sale will be the Food Corporation of India from the government side, then the bulk consumers, the private entities, they will do a procurement from the godowns of Food Corporation of India. Then the state governments will also participate. Some state governments, they will do procurements from the godowns of the Food Corporation of India. So this is how the entire system have been functioning. And this open market sale, it will reduce the supply crunch in the market. That's how it will bring down the price of the wheat and rice. We all well known recently, the government it banned the export of non-basmati white rice, right? So the demand is very high. That's what the government, it had taken the step. Then apart from that, to reduce the price and to curtail the inflation, the government is coming forward with the open market sales scheme. Okay. So this is the template of the open market sales scheme. And with respect to the open market sales scheme, as I already told you, Food Corporation of India will be the nodal agency and they will do weekly auctions. Okay. They will do weekly auctions and the purpose will be to improve the domestic grain availability and they will be targeting to reduce the prices of the essential crops, which are the rice and the wheat. And they will be supply the crops to the deficit regions. Okay. So these are all the functions the FCI will be carried out under the open market sales scheme. I would advise kindly go through the challenges and significance of the open market sales scheme, but it is not important. Just go through it whenever your time permits. Okay. So apart from that, don't need to search anything with respect to the open market sales scheme. So we need to know who is the nodal agency with respect to the open market sales scheme and what are the fundamentals of the open market sales scheme and which ministry have been involved in the open market sales scheme, right? So with respect to the open market sales scheme, the Department of Food and Public Distribution will be the nodal agency. Under the Department of Food and Public Distribution, the FCI will be operating. Okay. So these are all the steps you need to know. So with respect to this article, let us wind up the discussion here. Now let us move on to the next article. So this is the fourth article, guys. Amazon nations to jointly fight deforestation. So with respect to the deforestation in the Amazon range, we all well know it is at a historic rate. Okay. So once if it breaches the threshold rate means we can't revert back the Amazon forest to the pristine state. So this is the concern of the 8 South American countries. So they launched a program which is called as ACTO, ACTO. So Amazon Cooperation Treaty Organization. So this is the name of the program and it was adopted by some 8 countries. So the partner countries are Bolivia, Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, Guyana, Peru, Suriname and Venezuela. So these 8 countries, they signed a joint declaration in Belém. Belém is locating where? It is locating at the mouth of Amazon River. Okay. So these 8 countries, they clearly provided the roadmap to restore the Amazon forest regions. So the roadmap, it consists of several measures to promote the sustainable development and they are having clear-cut targets to cut down the deforestation and they are having elaborate protocols to fight the organized crime that fuels the deforestation. So these are all the stuffs they had included in the declaration. But the declaration, it hadn't included the demands of environmentalists and indigenous groups. Like Brazil, they pledged to end the legal deforestation by 2030. So this program, it hadn't been included in the joint declaration. Then Colombia also having their own pledge. They are having a target to halt the new oil exploration by 2030. So this is also not included in the joint declaration. With respect to this article, you need to know what is the declaration they had made and what are the partner countries involved in the program and what are the target areas they are going to operate. So this is the stuff we need to know. Then apart from that, we need to know the countries in the Amazon forest region. Okay. So here there are 8 countries are there. Here we are having Colombia, then Venezuela is there, then Guyana, then Suriname, French Guyana, then Brazil, then Bolivia, then Peru. Then basically guys, the 8 countries who are in the Amazon forest region, they are also acting as a suppliers of critical minerals. So as we discussed in the first article, we all well know there is a huge demand for the critical minerals, right? So these critical minerals, they are present in this region in an enormous rate. So the extraction of the mining will be very high in the future time. So this is the concern of the partner countries who belong to the ACTO. Okay. So with respect to this article, we need to know what is meant by ACTO and who are the members of the ACTO and what are the target areas. Then we need to know some basic mapping with respect to the South American region, right? So let us wind up this article here. Let us move on to the next article. This is the last article, guys. Number of elephants in Karnataka, it goes up by 364 from last count, touches 6,395. So recently in the elephant survey, the Karnataka, it witnessed that the number of elephants in its landscape has been increased. So almost by 364. So with respect to the elephant, the central government, they are having Project Elephant, right? So the Project Elephant, it was launched in the year of 1992 and it is a centrally sponsored scheme, okay? It is a centrally sponsored scheme. It is not a central sector scheme. So it is a centrally sponsored scheme. Therefore, 50% of the funding, it will come from the central government. Then the rest of 50% of the funding, it will come from the 13 elephant range states. Okay. So this is how the entire program have been functioning. Then the Project Elephant, it also includes the domesticated elephant, what we are having in temples. So this is the core point you need to know. It not only focuses on the elephant in wild, but it also includes the elephant what we domesticated in our temples. Okay. Then with respect to this article, it clearly states that in 2010, the Karnataka, it was stationing some 5,740 elephants. Then by 2012, it went up to 6,072. Then in the year 2017, it slightly witnessed a decrease in the number of elephants. It came around 6,049. Now it is around 6,395. So this is what the article have been stating. Then the Bandipur Tiger Reserve, it have been stationing almost 1,120 elephants according to the recent survey, which means for every 1 square kilometer, we are having 1 elephant. So this is what the reports have been mentioning. Moreover, the Nagarkul Tiger Reserve, it has been stationing around some 831 elephants in its territory. Almost the density which is in the range of 0.93. Okay. So these are the few facts you need to know. Then with respect to this article, you need to know some basics related to the Project Elephant, right? Now let us wind up the discussion here. Let us have a brief recap on what we have seen in our today's discussion. The first article is related to the cluster munitions, okay? So the first article is related to the cluster bomb munitions, where we have seen about the Convention on Cluster Bomb Munitions and the Geneva Conventions, especially the Article 51.4 and 51.5. Then we have seen an article related to the small modulator reactor. So this is the second article we have seen. In that we have seen the challenges to the decarbonization. Then what are the issues we are having in the conventional nuclear power plant. Then what are the advantages in the small modulator reactor. So these are the stuffs we had covered in the second article. Then the third article is related to the open market sales scheme. So this is the third article we have seen. Then the fourth article is related to the ACTO, which is an initiative to protect the Amazon forest. So it was launched by 8 Amazon forest range countries. Then lastly, it is an article related to the elephant. So these are the 5 articles we have seen in our today's discussion. Let us wind up the discussion part here. Now let us move on to the question part. This is the main question for you. Describe the cluster munition bombs. Still, there is an international treaty to ban the production and stockpiling. Many countries are not abiding by the principles of the treaty. Examine. So I hope you can frame the answer for this question with the discussion what we had, right? Now let us move on to the prelims question part. This is the first prelims question for you. Consider the following statements. The carbon fibers are used in the manufacture of components used in automobiles and aircrafts. So this is the first question. We all well known carbon fibers, it possesses huge material strength and it will be having low weight. Okay. So the reliability of the carbon fiber is very high. So even the Titan submarine, they use the carbon fibers for its construction. Okay. So the first statement is right. Second one, carbon fibers once used cannot be recycled. So with respect to the carbon fibers, almost 95% of the carbon fibers what we are using can be recycled. So statement 1 alone right with respect to the question number 1. This is the second question for you. Consider the statements related to the project Elephant. So it is a centrally sponsored scheme. So this is the right statement. I already told you it is not a central sector scheme. Then it covers the domesticated elephants. Apart from the elephants in wild, it also covers the domesticated elephants. So the second statement is also right. Then the project was launched in the year 1992. So this is also right. Okay. So all the three statements are right. The answer option C is the right one for question number 2. This is the third question. Consider the following statements. So the ballistic missiles are jet propelled at subsonic speeds throughout their flights, while cruise missiles are rocket powered only in the initial phase of flight. Here, the ballistic missiles, they are functioning based on the rocket mechanisms, and the supersonic missiles, they are working based on the jet engines. Okay, so the answer option 1 is wrong. Then second option, Agni 5 is the medium range supersonic cruise missile. In India, we are having one and only supersonic cruise missile, which is BrahMos. Okay, so the second statement, first portion is wrong. Then second one, while BrahMos is a solid fueled intercontinental ballistic missile, with respect to Agni 5, they are having a range of 5,000 km, and we are having it as an intercontinental ballistic missile. With respect to India, Agni 5 is the ICBM. So we can deliver a conventional warhead or the nuclear warhead with the help of Agni 5. But it is not so with respect to the BrahMos. So the BrahMos is a supersonic cruise missile and Agni 5 is a intercontinental ballistic missile. So the second statement is also wrong. So with respect to the question number 3, answer option D is the right one for question number 3. Finally, we are arriving at the end of the discussion, guys. I hope you would like this discussion. Subscribe to ForumIAS in all social media platforms. Press the like button if you like this video. Share the same video with your friends. Let me catch you in another discussion in the upcoming days. Thank you for your patience. Bye.